Armen, so Macron did reference human rights, but he didn't really, well, he wasn't very harsh.
No, that's right. It was interesting to see both leaders really stressing the specific context of Egypt, the instability of the region, and you sort of got the impression listening to them that they were kind of a bit relativistic about values, even though at one point Macron did say, well, as the France believes in universal values, but he also did stress the particular Egyptian context as if to justify President Sisi's measures. I mean, obviously he probably would say that he didn't justify them, but it sort of came across a bit that way because he was saying, remember, President Sisi's not in Paris. He's in Egypt. He has a completely different situation to deal with. And Macron mentioned religious fundamentalism in Egypt. So it was a sort of a slightly relativistic approach, you might say. When asked whether they had raised a specific cases of people who human rights organizations called political prisoners, President Macron said yes, in fact, he did raise the issue. I think it was 4 specific cases, but he didn't want to give details in public of that, he said, because he didn't want to compromise those cases. But overall, the impression was, I think, that Macron was to some extent indulging President Sisi. They didn't directly address the issue of people being put away behind bars because they don't like what the Egyptian government is doing, and that is probably the main bone of contention that NGOs will have with this press conference.
Armen, France and Egypt are seeking closer economic cooperation.
Yes, indeed. Well, they didn't really announce any new measures. We were wondering whether we were going to hear something about the sale of French fighter jets, the Rafale. We probably will know a little bit more about that tomorrow because Macron mentioned that President Sisi will be meeting the Minister of Economy and Finances, and it's through that ministry that this sale is being coordinated. So no details on that, but a lot of very general talk about furthering economic, cultural and scientific cooperation. But as I said, no new initiatives were specifically announced. Macron saying that what was being done now was really a continuation of policy that was agreed under a previous framework of bilateral cooperation that was agreed during the previous government of François Hollande. But generally, I think overall, Claire, what came out of this conference was a very close convergence on regional issues, on terrorism, on the Libyan situation, and really very, very few differences. Even on democracy and human rights, it didn't seem from this conference as though there was any particular problem between the two leaders, although, of course, what Macron actually said behind closed doors is something that we can't tell you about because we don't know.